and gentlemen. 1 second. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. This is B&B back with our weekly Churning the Butter podcast. We are live in the super secret underground bunker in the 51st state of mind. As always, this is your boy V8, the motor mouth and the fruitalicious drink with all your favorite vegetables in it. As always, blind in both ears.
A little bit of salt. A little bit of salt's in there too. Just for flavor though.
Yeah. Also here with the one, the only, the Dairy King, the proprietor of the French Toast Chateau. No, that's something else. But anyways, the proprietor of the ice cold kingdom out there in the creamy caliphates, the soft serve Sultan himself, and we promise we're not gonna go off the rails like the last episode. This is gonna be much more concise. I was feeling some kind of way and lost track of time. We have two things we'd like to talk about. So in our one of the things is there's been a significant banning in the world of Magic the Gathering Commander, and the other thing we'd like to talk about is a very popular video game that we both like to play. And as being this is April 23rd, 2020, a new thing has kind of come out today, and we'd like to talk about that. Also, there's been basically a patch for the game of Borderlands 3. And we'd like to talk about both of those things. Now, we're going to start here with something we're very passionate about, which is just Magic the Gathering. And I have some words on this, because if you did listen to our last podcast, thank you for doing so, we kind of got what we wanted. We called for the banning of the card Flash, and we gave reasons that it should and should not be banned, and we were apparently not alone. But, as always with these people who don't make decisions based on, facts and data, they make decisions based on conjecture and hearsay, and I will put a proof to my point or reasoning behind that in a small second. Folks, it's one step forward and two steps back with these people, with these rules makers, man, who don't pay attention to the state of the game as it is. And you can tell they don't pay attention to the state of the game because of a simple phrase. Now I'm looking at the mtgcommander.net website. And under the 2020 April rules update, at the bottom of the screen, there is a section on Flash. And I'm going to read you this blurb. It's about 2.5 paragraphs. I'm going to read you this blurb, and I'm going to make little cut-ins and make comments as well as my friend will do the same. So it says, Flash. Speaking of exceptional decisions, we are banning Flash, the card, not the mechanic. Enough CEDH players who we trust have convinced us that it is the only change they need for the environment they seek to cultivate. Stop right there. He said, enough CEDH players who we trust. That just tells you all you need to hear right there, folks. Oh, and there's a lot more to be said, but that tells you a lot of what you need to hear. Which means they don't make decisions on their own. Now, you would say to this stuff, that's a good thing, Mr. V8. They should, talk to a myriad of people about decisions, and they should do these things. But it also proved to me there's a good old boys club, and they don't make their decisions themselves, and they talk to people who they trust, meaning there's people they trust and people they don't trust.
Well, I would say that's reasonable. There's most definitely people I trust and don't trust.
Right. But here's the thing. That means there's a group of CEDH players of whom they don't trust.
First off, gross. Second,
and it leads me to believe that they have their own play group, and they go by those guys. And as I'll get into in a second, I don't believe that they take all of the people who place Commander the format into account based on these what they said. So to continue, they said Though they represent a small fraction of the Commander player base,
eat the rich.
we are willing
So
to make this effort for them.
It
Should not be taken as a signal that we are considering any kind of change in how we intend to manage the format. This is an extraordinary step, and one we are unlikely to repeat. It's very disappointing to hear that. Because in any competitive format, in any which way, shape, or form.
Roger that. Do we know where they are, or
I personally
should I just
do believe
bomb the
that
galaxy?
There's levels to competitiveness, and most of those things trickle down. And you're going to see a lot of those, and a lot of people who pay money to play Commander, which is all of the people who were going out when it was available, going out to play on a weekly basis to their local game store, they had to pay the small fee to get into their pool, just like most of you out there, and that was somewhat competitive, wouldn't you say? It's probably about as most competitive as most people got because, you know, they paid money. They want to win. You know, there's something to that. So I don't think they take that into account, and the fact that they believe that Commander is a completely social and casual format in its entirety is kind of, I think, a little tone deaf as to how Commander usually gets played, but. And then they go, we use the ban list to guide players into how to approach the format. And hope Flash's role on the list will be to signal cheating things into play quickly in a non-interactive format isn't interesting. Don't do that. That's not the fact. Flash was banned because it specifically was able to combo in a one specific way to win you the game instantly. Flash wasn't a problem until there was a way for that specific card to win you the game instantly after playing. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So because of that fact, you know what I'm saying, cheating things into play pretty quickly isn't necessarily a problem. It's cards that allow you to win the game instantly are a problem. You know what I'm saying? So, like, what are your thoughts on that?
So I will state, so Flash is a problem.
It is.
Flash, the problem with Flash is, it's now, I'll put it like this. Some people will look at Flash and say, well, Flash did nothing wrong. It was, you know, the card that was next to it that made the issue, right? But the problem with that thought process is you actually have to look at the fact that, okay, if this keeps on happening, then, you know, it's like the reason why they ended up banning Birthing Pod. They ended up banning Birthing Pod in Modern because it was a restraint on basically what they could do and what they could, you know, print. If Flash didn't enable this card to actually, you know, go crazy, it would have enabled some other card to go crazy. Because the actual problem with Flash isn't just the fact that it brings things into play, is that it cheats the mana cost and it instantly has it die instead of basically the spell not going. Like if they designed Flash today, they would have designed it entirely different. As in, they would have designed it where if you did not play the card or you did not pay the mana cost, you wouldn't have gotten a card. But instead, how it actually works is you don't pay, it still comes into play, and then the creature instantly dies. As if, you know, it had Evoke. But you give every single card in Magic the Gathering Evoke for 1 blue and 1. So the problem is going to be the fact that there's no way... Flash is one of those types of cards that, you know, they don't make anymore. And for good reason. It has weird interactions with the entire game. Like, the also part of this death trigger, or the part of the fact that it dies, is a part of the resolution of the spell itself. So the fact that it dying is part of the resolution of the spell means there is no way to interact with the card itself. So there's no way of fixing Flash.
No. And you get your comes into play and leaves play triggers on said card.
Right.
That's the point. To further the point my friend's trying to say, or to ask the question is, would it be safe to say that we're in agreement that Flash is the exception, not necessarily the rule, when it comes to cheating, quote unquote, things into play?
Cheating things into play is always going to be dangerous, but there's a lot of things that cheat things into play that aren't as degenerate as this. Cheating things into play in of itself is not so bad that, you know, it's unpalatable. It's like, you know, for example, Mayhem, which is a deck I used to play, cheats things into play. It does it for 6, and it's random. So it's not necessarily the thought process of cheating things into play or cheating things into play that's fast. And once Mayhem activates, you can't really interact with the trigger. It's already happened, right? So there's not very much you can do. It's just as interactable as Flash and countering Flash. So it's not that cheating things in of itself is the problem, as much as, one, how cheap it was, and 2, because of how cheating it into play, or how it actually ended up working, was the problem. There's a lot of very specific things about Flash that makes it very, very hard to interact with, makes it very, very hard to do anything about once it's been set up. I think we spoke about this earlier, but basically it ended up making the game where if you had one blue and one colorless available at instant speed, you could win the game at any point in time. So that was the actual problem with Flash. The things that Flash went and got are still in the game. So like, they were playing a combo. People are still going to play that combo, but now it's going to be a sorcery speed. Instead of costing 1 blue and 1, it's going to cost 2 blue and a black. So it's much heavier mana cost to win the game. It's still very, very powerful, because, that's not a lot to win a game. But it is sorcery speed, and it costs more, and it has a lot of colored pips, almost all colored pips in that mana cost.
Right. Now, in saying our piece on those 2 parts of it, there's a last third piece to their idea of the Flash meta. Now, I'm going to read you this last bit, and we're going to talk about it. So they say, the last part. We believe Commander is still best as a social-focused format and will not be making any changes to accommodate tournament play. Taking responsibility for you and your opponent's fun, including setting expectations within your group, is a fundamental part of the Commander philosophy. Organizers who want to move towards more untrusted games should consider adding additional rules or guidance to create the Commander experience they want to offer. Now that...
This is kind of where, because we went through the entire statement. So this is where I have the issue. I understand what they did. What they wanted to do was basically not scare the guys and make them say, oh, now we're going to be, balancing things for competitive play. Now, it's no longer a casual format. I wanted to have this casual format. I wanted to not be, attached to, all this, competitiveness, right? That's why I got here. That's why some people came to competitive. And sure, alright, I'll give them that. But here's my actual issue. My actual issue is the fact that they make it sound like they've been doing, like this that they're doing is a very large thing that they're doing. They're making it sound as if they're making a lot of this is a huge conceit that they're making for the CDH format. And truth be told, this is not a very large conceit. One is this Flash was very rarely played in anything else besides competitive EDH. Two, it's not like competitive EDH is not like they say it's a very small fraction, and that's not exactly true. Because the issue with that statement is that, oh, it's a small fraction of the player base. There's a lot of people who play competitive EDH and play, non-competitive EDH at the same time. So, for example, I do. Would I consider myself an entirely competitive EDH player? No, because I actually have, for every competitive EDH deck I have 5 non-competitive EDH decks. So does that make? But I play this format. I have large, a lot of opinions about it. Does that make me an exclusively competitive EDH player? No. So you're not just doing something just for me. You're not just doing something just for competitive EDH. Also, the things that are allowed in competitive EDH eventually find themselves down to the lower formats. And the biggest draw, or I wouldn't say the biggest draw, the biggest increase in the card prices and the cards that are selling out right now, when you look at the weekly, stats, they're not casual cards. Is it the card this week that gained the most? $20 was Thrasios. People aren't playing, casual Thrasios decks. Thrasios doesn't necessarily get, a lot of people who are playing casual really, really excited. Why did that card jump $20 and the other partner commander jumped up $15? It said now Thrasios and Tymna are $60 and $80. If you're looking at these cards and you're saying, and I believe my cohort here is doing some research, looking up those prices for me. Am I correct in that? Am I wrong?
So no, I'm looking up the cards because I would like to educate our audience as to what these cards are. As to not only that, I'm just pulling them up.
Okay,
you're correct. But we're gonna talk about price in a second. I wanted you to finish your statement, and I was gonna talk about these cards just to let folks know what we're talking about here.
Okay. So those cards, I said, are increasing in price. Now, cards don't increase in price because people aren't buying them. People only increase in price if people are buying these cards. So, if people are buying these cards, and these are all competitive cards, these aren't cards that see lots of casual play, then I have to assume that these guys that, more people are playing competitive EDH. Otherwise, why are these cards prices going up so large? I mean, these aren't small amounts. It's that these are, 50% of the price, 40% of the price in a week. These are astronomical. I wish I had bought more of these things. It said I maybe bought Thrasios maybe a month or two ago, when he was like $20 or something like that. I would have made if Thrasios is $60, I would have tripled my money in a month. This card is ballooned in price. So I don't believe this small portion of the player base. What I do believe is that it was just so inordinate. This request was so, to the point where if we don't do it, we're looking like the bad guy at this point. I think that's the only real reason why this whole thing even went down. Because had they not done it, they would look like the bad guy. And they couldn't. They would look like out of touch.
Out of touch, out of sync, and they don't pay attention to their own format. And I also believe that it, I believe actually because of the way that they stated it, that is the case. I personally believe they're out of touch with their own format as opposed to data. I don't think they know how most people play this. Like, how, what they use, what who is the common EDH player? What is he looking for?
You know, something. But I do have to say one thing. I talked a big crap about Sheldon last time, and from what I've heard, now this is just word through the grapevine, that he was not specifically the one that was holding this up, and that the CAG, which is the Commander Advisory Group, had been, which I think is the EDH, CEDH players you trust, the people next to those guys have been pounding on their door for, years at this point. I think, and from right here, Sheldon was actually for this ban, and if he was, I apologize for some of it, not all of it. I still most definitely believe that that some of these decisions you've made in the past were necessarily made because you had the completely outside of personal gain and personal want to keep certain things in a format.
Of course.
But it said, but the fact that I didn't think you were going to do this, and you did do it. So I have to give you a round of applause. You're due for because if I would feel bad if you had done this and I did not issue my my statements, my congratulations. And
he got it done.
He got it done. And even when I thought it was going to happen. So there we go.
But it's done. Now, what I'm getting at is in saying that, okay, they talk a lot about this socially focused format and play groups. Not everybody has a play group that's organic to them as far as they know 3 people. Like, me and my friend here are lucky we actually have a play group. We have at least 3 people, if we include ourselves, and don't include ourselves, that we can call up, go sit down somewhere at like a McDonald's or something. They have enough people to have an EDH pod. Easily.
I'm actually very lucky, and so is he. That also we live in a city of which there is lots of EDH being played in lots of variety of formats. So we could expand our borders and expand our EDH to play with as many people as we want. We have plenty of play groups. I regularly play with 3 different play groups.
And now I have to ask you a question about that. Those 3 different play groups. How many of those play groups are in a non board game, or not board game, a non, how should I say, an LGS? How many of those are not in a local game store?
I could say, if I wanted to not play in a local game store and get games, there's 3 places I can think of. There's a group of friends I have, and then there's 2 other places that are not game stores that I could go and play EDH very readily.
Right. But would you also say that you're, like we were saying, you're the exception and not the rule, and that I personally think most people who play Commander play in a game store once a week, or in something like in our case, in our city, there's a place that's it's a gaming bar. It's like a nerdy kind of bar pub establishment where they have Commander once a week, but you still have to pay money because they expect you while you go there to be buying drinks, doing things, and not just taking up space.
Yeah, we also have a bowling alley that runs a Commander League weekly. So there's quite a bit of Commander here. There's quite a bit of opportunities if you want it. It's there.
A lot of those places, in our city, but not in most cities, I would imagine most people go to their local game.
Or may have, or may, sit around the kitchen table or go to someone's house.
Right. Now for all those people who go to a local game stores, those pods that they put you in, the 4-person pod for Commander, to me feels like a poker table. If you've ever played tournament poker, they have it set up. They have you in pods. You win your table and you go to the championship table or the next table. There are places where that's how it works. Now, leagues are also competitive by every week when you play certain things are scored. A lot of people live by the credo that games are no fun unless somebody keeps scoring.
Maurice, I've breached the first gate.
There's a winner and a
No
loser.
sign of a leader, just a bunch of dead or soon-to-be dead guys.
I personally do not believe that Commander is as casual anymore as you say it is. It's not, because when Commander started, it was EDH. What most people don't know, and if you do know, it bears repeating, was a group of judges at varieties of events who had time between matches and made up a ridiculous format out of something called singleton in order for them to have something that was fun for them to do. It revitalized Magic the Gathering because it was a way for people to procure the cards and not be forced into having to buy so much for each card. Which is not something you always had to do, but it's how people felt they had to do. So, it always came from a somewhat competitive place because all those other people who were doing that and had those 100 cards to make when the game first started,
Come get some.
EDH first was the thing, were kind of showing off a little bit because they had enough cards to make a good deck. You know, because when EDH started, there was a big restriction. You had to use a dragon, a legendary elder dragon, and all that stuff. And it wasn't even anything like it looks today. And it was formed because there's this culture of Magic the Gathering, which is known as MTG finance. And what that is those are people who look at Magic the Gathering for the value of cards. And a lot of those people get a kick out of putting all these expensive cards and playing with them. And they wear white gloves and they don't touch the cards and so on, but they play games. And they get this kick. There's people that go to, an event they used to happen every year in Las Vegas where they would, pull out alpha boosters that draft and spend hundreds of dollars to do that. And that's where that game came from. That's where, out of that kind of thing, where people had that many Magic the Gathering cards, that's where Commander came from, out of EDH, which was something completely different. And it was out of people who had lots of money to begin with. Now those people, those high roller type people, eventually trickled down, and as Magic the Gathering found out that this game was, that Commander was fun, people enjoyed it, that's when Commander started catching.
That's where it became from EDH to Commander. And I've actually I've come to the realization that and this is something that for our younger viewers may date us by calling it EDH. Usually most people don't even know that was the original name for the game. So usually only people who say that kind of stuff are either people who've been playing this game for a very, very long time, or that they're competitive. And usually both.
Or just heard that, name secondhand. But actually what EDH stands for is Elder Dragon Highlander. And they had to use one of the 5 Elder Dragon cards. That's way back in the beginnings of Magic. Look up what the original Elder Dragons. Look that up. And you had to use one of those to play the game. And
another thing,
extremely different.
I said another thing most people don't know is that there used to be right now commander damage is based on how many times or getting this 21. People don't know where that number. That number came from because all of those dragons were 7/7s. So you were hit 3 times, you just lost. It wasn't even a number. It was you were hit 3 times with one of these dragons, you lost. And then when they did originally open it up, they just changed it to a number. And then initially there were certain generals that were banned because they dealt large amounts of damage way too easily. For example, Karavek the Merciless was a card that was banned in EDH as a commander, or was back when they even had things as bad as commander. So this is a game that although under things stay the same, things have most definitely changed. And I think somewhat they're being somewhat naive in the fact that they think that this game is entirely casual, especially considering I wouldn't necessarily say the stuff that they like in the game is super super friendly to casuals. There's nothing really friendly to casual about a mana crypt.
No. And here's another thing you need to say.
Stay down,
Back me up on this. Tell me if I'm wrong. Can you co-sign the fact that most EDH games are games of Commander? Let me use the correct term. Use games of Commander in some sort of infinite combo?
I would say 40%.
So you're gonna say less often than not?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
if we're putting all the games of Commander out there, I would say maybe 40%.
That's still a large amount though, right? That's almost half. So you would say just under half of the games of Commander ending in infinite.
I would say most of them end in overwhelming advantage. And some, there's a lot of combos out there that aren't infinite. So I would actually say if we're going to go by the strict infinite,
but it's a really convoluted combo.
I wouldn't even say convoluted, just a combo.
Just a big combo. Now, do you think, honestly, someone coming from 0 to... if someone was just to pick up Magic the Gathering for the very first time, you think the first place they should go is Commander? I would say no.
I would say it's not impossible. I've seen people who that's the only format they've ever played, or that's the first format they played, so it's not impossible. Well, it wouldn't necessarily be the exact format I would have automatically send someone to. I wouldn't necessarily say, hey, you just started EDH or you just started Magic the Gathering. The first thing you should learn is how to play this format.
How to play Commander.
Now, do I think it's a great format? Yes. It's my favorite. Do I think you can learn how to play the game using it? Yes. But is it the easiest one? Would it be the first one I use for my when I tried to get my brother to do it? No, I didn't try.
No.
I didn't try it with with Commander. Not at all.
And basically, the point of what I'm trying to say about this is, Commander can be as simple or as difficult as the people you play with.
Hungry bear.
And you can't say that about every format, because most formats in Magic the Gathering are a little more predictable because they use partial. Most people, believe it or not, aren't so imaginative when they show up with a completely deck of all their own volition and play. So in most constructed formats, most people have somewhat of the popular conjecture deck of the game. Now in Commander, because you're over there getting, you know what I'm saying, you have 100 single cards, even somebody with the general quote-unquote of the popular thing, and they may have all the popular combos in there, they may not be running that deck card for card. While that does happen, it's a lot less likely in Commander, so there's very little predictability about the format. And that doesn't make it any easier for somebody who doesn't even know much about Magic the Gathering to begin with.
That's true.
Really what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like the unpredictable nature and how, you know, combos, quote unquote, can happen in Commander. It can be difficult for someone who doesn't understand, you know, Magic the Gathering in general. The guy, you know, some guy's at the table, and all of a sudden he does an instant combo, and you see, you know, single-digit numbers on these cards, and all of a sudden he says, I have 1,000 of something. And you're sitting there going, wait, what? You know, like, there's a variety of different ways to have 1,000 of something in EDH or in Commander. So, it's by no means the most simplest format.
Well, put it like this: it's like if you took the most the most complicated format like Legacy or Vintage or something like that. Because there's cards you can play in EDH that you can't play in those formats.
In any format, any other format.
It said, and you took that and then you made it so you don't see 4-ofs. So even when you so the deck doesn't necessarily do the same thing every single time, or if it does, maybe not even get there the same way. And although, you know, Commander decks can be very, you know, especially good ones can be very efficient and can be very good at reducing the randomness, it doesn't, you know, eliminate it. Like when you have, especially when you have the entire card pool available to you.
Right. And then, on top of that, you got, you know, format staple damn near, Mana Crypt at $140, telling you that at the beginning of your upkeep, flip a coin. And you're like, what? We're flipping coins now? and because a lot of people play in the casual quote-unquote format, they make a proxy of this card, and you all of a sudden are now flipping coins. Like, what? So, casual is kind of in a, I don't know, like you could call it casual. I mean, calling it casual is you know, it's casual in the fact that people are playing it for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Oh wait,
sometimes they are.
Sometimes they are. So, I would actually say that Commander at this point, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, is about as casual as poker.
I'm not sure. I would say it is most definitely not the most casual format. It can be most definitely casual if you want it to be. You can't get, but here's the thing: you can't guarantee that it's going to be. Also, there's a lot of people, you know, you don't see competitive, you know, EDH. But my actual problem with their statement wasn't even the fact that they were naive, but it kind of like they made it, how they said it made it sound like, you know, well, we're just, you know, we're doing this thing for these guys on the side who are not playing real EDH. They're not playing, you know, the format. You know, we're not playing it really. They're not playing the format as you should. But we're going to, you know, basically appease the heathens and make a concession, appease these heathens, because that was actually a big problem that the CDH group and the CDH, you know, players had, was for a long time they had to deal with the fact that a lot of people believed that CDH were full of just a bunch of jerks who, you know, didn't like fun and didn't want to play like normal people, so they had to play like, so they had to be, you know, these terrible people. And that's not true. That's not what CDH is. A lot of people actually find CDH very, how can I say, they leave normal Commander for CDH because they have certain things they don't have to deal with in CDH that you normally have to deal with in, you know, normal casual Commander. And one of them being power level. because when you're sitting down at the table, the casual players will say, well, let's try to figure out what the power level of everyone's decks is, and then you have to figure out, what your power level is, and is your 8 the same as their 8, and, what is really a 6, and, then there's these long discussions, and then when you may think this is this and that, and then some people's feelings get hurt at the end because they're like, oh, you said this was a this, but it was really a that, and,
Right.
the reason a lot of people actually play, the CDH format is because they're like, well, everyone's here with the same idea, with the same knowledge or the same notion that we're all here to play the decks as good as they can be played. We're here to play the decks as strong as they can be. So thus, there's no confusion, and people don't get sad or get mad when you do something that is the right play because it may not be the most fun play. It may not be, the play that, makes people feel good. But it's maybe the right thing for if you want to actually win this game. It's hard to kind of like tell someone, well, I really should do this, but because this guy may not have fun when I play, I'm not going to do that now.
Yeah, it's not actually fair to anyone that you go around and say, oh, well, guess what? Your deck is too powerful. You can't sit down and play nicely together. Nobody listens. Nobody listens. Oh, he's playing blue. We can't play with him. He's playing blue. He's got a deck that's blue in it. We were here to have fun. Like, come on, man. Like, what is that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
what is fun? Because some people have fun doing one thing, other people have fun doing another thing. So
some people don't have fun with something unless something realistic is on the line.
And it's,
you know what I mean?
And but you don't have to play CEDH for money, because I don't want it to make that assumption too. That
but some people find the fact that they can do that.
Yeah, some people find
fun.
Some people find that exhilarating. But some people just want to play the game at the highest level and not have to worry about, well, I can make the right plays and not feel like a jerk because people say, hey, the way you like to play this game is not right. The way you like to play this game is not fun. The way you like to play this game is not, is not the real way to play the game. You're a bad person because you like your fun this way, and we all said fun is this, and fun is not that.
Right, and that's kind of our big beef with that whole last part of that rules update, is because they are alluding to that. It feels that they're alluding to that.
Mm-hmm.
And the other little beef that I have is something I really don't like, which is organizers who want to move towards more unstructured games should consider adding additional rules or guidance to create the commander experience they want to offer. For instance, what that does is that encourages house rules. House rules are nice, but the only problem I have with house rules are okay when you're not mid-lane or late. When you go to a store, you know what I'm saying, you go to the LGS, you kind of have an idea of what you expect, right? If you get there and it's all kind of stuff that you don't expect, they got all these crazy fishy house rules and stuff, that kind of sucks, man.
So the house rules are fun as long as you know what they are.
Right.
People don't have as much fun when they thought they could play the game today and they found out, oh no, I don't get to play. Oh, that's fun.
No,
I came here for nothing.
Yeah, I came all this way for nothing. That sucks. Like you go all this way to this place, you spend time and story time. All right. So before we were adults who should I say responsible adults, me and my friend here would take 2 to 3 hour bus rides across multiple counties in our municipality where we live in our city to go play card games. And I can just imagine those people doing something similar to that. Just ending up, you know, all of a sudden now they have to, you know, they get there and they're you can't play Commander House Rules. Like I'm not all up for house rules, man. In a lot of games, you know, especially it's something as, you know, like Commander, where, you know, it is a little bit more accessible.
Seriously, you know how that sounds.
Because, like, even if you have all your house rules pre-printed, if somebody didn't know there was house rules to begin with, like, I'll give an example. Say you watched this YouTube video of these cats playing Magic the Gathering, right? They were playing Commander. You thought that was really cool. So you built your deck. You went out there. Said, I want to try this. I'm going to go to my LGS. You get there, and all of a sudden, there's a bunch of these house rules, and, like, that experience is nothing like anything that they want. And then they basically, like my friend said, they say you can't play. That sucks. That would suck. That would suck. And you were prepared to give you were prepared to support your local game store by giving them money. Now you don't even want to do that anymore. Because you can't even get the experience that you wanted to have anyways. That sucks. That sucks for everybody. Or, you know, so maybe for some people there is nowhere for them to go. You know what I'm saying? Maybe somewhere there is only one place, and they got to kowtow to somebody else's house rules because they don't like a thing. You know what I'm saying? That's whack. That's not cool for nobody. And they make that, and they basically encourage you to do that. And like me and my friend were saying, we're lucky we can go sit down somewhere with a group of our friends and play. And you know what? And you know what we do when we do that? When me and my friends sit down, we used to have a place we called the office. It was basically an office space that we rented where we kept all of our gaming stuff. And once a week we would go there and we'd play D&D amongst other things. And Commander sometimes was on the docket. And you know what we didn't do? Make a bunch of arbitrary house rules. That was the last thing we did. That was the very last thing we did. We actually wanted to play the game as rules are written. And that's what most people want to do. They want to play the game as written. And most people have that expectation to do so. So to encourage something like house rules, I think is not something you should do. Don't encourage.
I understand the thought process behind something like that. They're like, well, you know, our format is not necessarily clean, and you know, if something's bad in your format or something's bad in your group, you know, you can, you know, move around. You don't have to, you know, keep that in. I understand the thought process behind it, but what ends up happening sometimes with that is, so we brought up this house rule and we're making it up, and then now that person goes and tries to play somewhere else and they don't have this house rule, so they've gotten used to this playing the game this way, and they can't, you know, and that doesn't work anymore. So the other issue is not only do you not know what you're gonna show up to, but now every single place has its own rules, and people don't know what to play. And that's the actual point of having set aside rules written out. That's the point of having these things, you know, clear and concise, to basically sidestep this issue, to basically have it so you can, you know, just go someplace and know what, and have an expected experience, have an expected thing you can, you know, show up and have an idea of what you're walking into. And I understand, you know, if, you know, for a bunch of people, like, you know, a bunch of guys who who play EDH every week and have the luxury of, you know, having a place you can just play with the same 5 guys, that makes sense. But these guys are the rules committee. These guys these guys have to set up the rules for that. They have to set up the standard people, at least the base value for this stuff is. And if you're unwilling to, you know, And it sounds like they want to be unwilling. Now, because the fact that they actually did do it, I'm not saying they are unwilling. It sounds like they have the idea that they would prefer to be unwilling to, change these rules for the sake of, a small group of people. And the problem I have with that thought process, and I didn't even get into it earlier, was the fact that, like, well, it's a small group of people that were, that this is bothering. I would say a lot of their bands have been the same way. I would say the band when they did Iona Shield of Emeria, that band, that was not a card that sees play. It actually sees less play. If you look up on EDH Rec, there are less people who played Iona in a deck that was available to them than when they played this card. When they ended up playing Flash. So it actually affected less people, but they didn't feel like they needed to make a statement for why they put out Iona. Or why, they didn't have to feel like they had to say, well, it's only a small group, but, we're making this big thing because we felt it that way. Even though numbers, it actually affected less games. And there's a couple other cards I could think on the list. Like, for example, when they had the banning of what was it, Paradox Engine, that it was actually really bad for the CDH community. That actually made certain decks disappear, and it actually made decks that were actually not as weren't as popular. It didn't boost up the highs or boost up the really popular, the really good decks, and made a couple like second tier decks viable and willing to play. So it actually added diversity to the format, but that was banned, and there was no consideration for us then. So they make it sound like they made this huge consideration, and they didn't. They've made hundreds of different considerations, and we were never, until this point, ever considered before. So I think it's disingenuous to all of a sudden say, oh, we're making all these, concessions for EDH. Make sure no one thinks that we will have to do this again. But in fact, considering how much of the group we are, and how much, influence this is happening, it's not really, I think it's just disingenuous, or like my friend says, they're unaware. So I think they're. Which one do you think it is? Do you think that they're unaware, or they're disingenuous, or they're unaware?
It's both.
Okay.
It's both. It's literally both, and I'll explain why it's both. It's both because not only do they not understand what I think the majority of people who play the Commander go for when they play. I don't think they know what the average Commander player looks like. Mm-hmm. And I think they're disingenuous because they live in that bubble. No. Okay. Because when they make things like this, it feels like they live in a bubble. That's for their view is better.
Next time, lead with that.
Like
Maurice has much
like you said, this guy Sheldon or whatever made decisions based on his own personal problems. So
return to Maurice. Hunger for work.
That's kind of the deal. Now, moving on to that, to just prove my friend correct on these cards. Thrassos Triton Hero was a commander card from Commander 2016 as a set. There's the holographic version, which I believe all of the versions that came out were all shiny.
Yeah, there's no normal version of that card.
There's no just plain paper version.
Mm-hmm.
Is on February. The Theros release was just before February 20th. So going from then, on February 20th, the card was $20.
Mm-hmm.
Today, right now as we speak, the card is $64.99.
Mm-hmm.
All that information can be found on mtggoldfish.com. If y'all want to look up what I'm looking at. Now, February 20, we go by February 20, which was $24 on February 20, to today, to April 20,
You're
$65.
upgraded. Why not purchase any of these other fine products?
I don't have to do the math to tell you how many days that was in that short of time. All right?
Basically, just over 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
It tripled in price in under 2 months.
In like 60 days, in over 60, in just 60 days.
Mm-hmm.
In 60 days, it tripled in price.
If you were playing the stocks, and something tripled in price in 60 days, you'd have loud bald men ringing buzzers and yelling at NBC about that. So like, this is a quickly growing format.
Right. That's a car. So $65 for that car.
And now look at Timna. Look at Timna the Weaver.
The Weaver is now sitting, I believe. Let me double check. I just double check to make sure. I check both websites for this car. Yeah. At the time of February 20th, the card was $18. And today,
you'll be sorry.
The card is now $56. On the 20th of April, or should I say, on the 20th of April, the card was $28. The card today is now $56 on the 23rd of April. And on the February the 20th, the card was $18.60. So that's a significant jump, ladies and gentlemen. And that's just to tell you how simple, and and these were cards that came from the Commander 2016 scenario, when that came out. So they're not exactly new, they're about 4 years old. These are 4-year-old cards. And they're still worth 56.
Well, look when they came out. Look how much they cost.
Don't spend it all
Oh
in
yeah.
one place, except right
I mean, they were like $20 then too.
Right, but like that was when they were like brand new.
Brand new, just came out. And the only reason they were $20 then was because that's the only way you could get them.
But like they said at $20 for how long? 3 years?
Yeah, just about. They said at $20. They were flat toe. All of a sudden there's a jump. I wonder what happened.
Lighting your pockets won't make them
$56.70 in paper. I wonder what happened. But this is the casual format.
I'm sure we'll be doing this all
Right?
again soon enough.
That we're making great concessions. We are subverting our personal expectations, and we're going on our way to do things unprecedented in time and space. We are breaking new ground and boldly going where we have never gone before to ban a card for our dear friends who are our trusted CEDH players, our most trusted. Get the fuck out of here. Oh, I have to curse just that once. Get the heck out of here, bro. But this is the casual format, right? But this format can drive up prices on cards triple within 60 days or less. Yeah, okay.
I'm not quite sure who they think they're fooling. Not quite sure.
Like, this is a joke.
Where they get this idea from. Now, granted,
casual format.
Now here's the thing. Is the CDH, is CDH the entire format? No. would I say it's even majorly competitive? No. But I
No.
will say it is. See, EDH or Commander is the fastest growing, largest format in Magic the Gathering. And just by the simple fact that that's happening, and that we're seeing these prices means that the CEDH must be the fastest growing format out there, because people, just for out of curiosity, people want to know, people want to see, people want to try to get in and like
Right,
see.
and the
It'll
truth
say
is,
like, hey, what is this format about? So
and the truth is, to be honest, if you go out to your local game store on the weekends when they usually have Commander, you play, you're gonna get your experience is gonna be somewhere in the middle. Your experience is gonna be somewhere in the middle, from completely kitchen table Magic to tournament competitive. It's gonna be somewhere in the middle. It's not gonna be one or the other. It's not like a bunch of guys who are playing kitchen table Magic are out here going to the local game store every week, because they're not.
well, here's
Most
the
of those
thing.
people are
You also
semi-competitive,
will probably
pretty
get
good at
both.
Magic. Yeah, you will get both. You'll get those people too. But the average player, I would say, is somewhere in the middle. You know what I mean? Is that fair? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Yeah, the average player is somewhere in the middle. So so those two extremes don't really exist as much. Those are the outliers. That's why this whole thing is disingenuous and BS. Because most people are aware of the busted stuff going around. Most people are aware. Most people who play EDH consistently every week are vaguely, if not completely, aware of what's going on in the hyper competitive.
Well, I wouldn't say they're very aware as much as they're becoming more aware.
No, I said vaguely to
Yeah,
hyper.
like, vaguely to hyper.
Even,
They're not completely unaware. There's no, they know it
there's nobody
exists.
out there who plays consistently, who plays every week. Let me now re-go over my full statement again. The people who consistently play at their LGS Commander every week, their local games every week, so the most loyal people are, for the most part, vaguely to extremely within that range, aware of the most competitive scenarios going on within that format. The not those people. Do you call those people casuals? The folks that show up every week, are they casuals? They show up to their local game store and pay money to play this format for a prize,
like
clockwork.
clockwork.
Are those people like clockwork? Are those people casual or competitive? What do we call those people? I want. Let's define that. Because those are the people I'm considering when I'm talking about this stuff being disingenuous. That we're making these grand exceptions to. Those are the average. That I would put myself in that shoe. That's where I'm at with Commander. I'm the weekly dude probably going to his LCS and his, $6-7 to sit down in his Commander pod and possibly win those 2 packs. I'm that guy. And I know, and it's not just because of my friend here, I know all about this busted stuff. That Flash Hog was busted, because that combo's been busted for a very long time in a lot of formats in Magic the Gathering, and it finally made its way over to Commander because there was an instant winner attached to it. That's what happened, all right? Let's not act like this is some miracle of science and magic over here. It's a classic combo that made its way over to EDH because it was attached to an instant winner, because they in the Theros set they printed an instant winner you can print out of that. Basically, that's what happened. All right. So we ain't buying it, Sheldon. We ain't buying it that you're making some grand exception for this small group of guys sitting in the corner with their thumbs in their mouth.
No, what you did was what you had to do to not make yourself look like a fool.
Because the voice of the people, the people had spoken. and the shit was getting out of hand.
And you know when it was bad? You knew it was bad when the people who don't play competitive EDH cared about it.
Right.
Because that's the actual issue. The actual issue isn't even just the fact that, people who play competitive EDH were upset, because if that just been the fact, I don't think it would have actually happened. What actually happened was the people see what's going on over there, and they're like, okay, well, what's going on over here? What's happening over here? Oh, this is competitive EDH. Oh, okay, let me know about it. And people start talking to these guys and say, hey, and say, well, what's going on in your format? How is this game played? Oh, well, our format used to be this, and this. It used to be, really interesting, but now there's just one deck. And everything's just a variation of this one deck. Oh, man, that sounds like that sucks. I was thinking I might have want to have a competitive EDH deck, because that's what everyone wants to do. A lot of people don't want to play a heavy competitive EDH, but that's the reason why these card prices up, because people want to have one in their pocket. They want to have
they don't want to lose.
Yeah, they were like, if everyone's playing competitive EDH, I could stomp in that, that arena as well. I could play as well. So, I'll have me a little competitive EDH deck in a side, because people want to have
in the cut.
In the cut where they were like, okay, I have I have my competitive decks. I have a bunch of but if it came down to the seriousness, I could play. And then they're like, well, this format sounds, boring. Well, this is, and if it's just this one card, man, why won't they just do it? So you got casual people. You got people who don't even care, who will never probably play competitive EDH. They're like, man, all they had to do was cut one card in order to make it work. It's not even a card we care about. Come on now. It was like it was looking bad. It was when the non-competitive people sat there and said, all you had to do was just throw them just a little bone, and it would solve so many problems. You look bad for not doing it.
Right. And they act like they came off of Mount Olympus. Zeus threw a thunderbolt down from Mount Olympus and shit. Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here with that. Like, and they act like they're not going to do it again. It's not a matter of if, my man, to give the classic. It's a matter of when. All right?
No, actually,
problems like this is going to happen again.
Actually, I unfortunately believe this is a if. I don't believe that they may never do this again. And that's actually my actual problem.
You know why? You know why they're going to have to do this again? We're going to get more bans in EDH.
Oh no, I'm not saying there won't be more bans, but they may not. Right. But they may never listen to this reason again. They may be like, if it's a competitive, we already gave you one ban, and you couldn't get that stuff right last time. Well, we're not. Well, obviously there's something wrong with you guys. So, yeah.
No,
because that's what it sounded like. That's what that statement was. What they wanted, and that's what they wanted to put out there.
But here's the thing: they're gonna say that. But that's not gonna be the case, because they're gonna do it again, and they're gonna give you some other facts. You see what I'm saying? That's why this whole thing is discontinuous. Because every time they're gonna ban a card, they're not gonna tell the truth, because they're not telling the truth now.
Okay. Well, sir, I hope you're right. I hope I'm wrong, because I don't have that amount of faith in them in order to make the right decision again.
Well, they're gonna be. Well, no. See, it's gonna be out of their hands, because they're gonna be pressured into it the same way they were pressured into this one. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
They're going to be more banned. And then they're going to come off, and they're not going to admit. Because, see, what we're saying, sir, and what we're agreeing on is they were slightly pressured into doing this. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be pressured into doing another one for the right reasons. The writing is going to be on the wall, just like it was with this one. They're going to pretend competitive had nothing to do with it, but we all gonna know the truth. Mm-hmm. and it's gonna be the same OBS, and they're just gonna pretend, and they're just gonna try to save face and say, no, well, we looked at it, and upon further review, yada 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 yada.
Okay.
Right? You know, it's just what's gonna happen. So there's gonna be more bans at EDH. That's why this whole thing is crap in the beginning. The fact that they're acting like they're doing some magnificent stuff, we know it's gonna happen again. Don't give us that lie. Look, like, all they should have said, all they had to do was say, you know what, due to popular opinion and some of our own research, we've determined this card's been a little bit of a problem, and we're gonna ban it for now. Maybe we might rescind, you know, how we feel about that later on, but for right now, this is kind of not looking too hot. Because, and you know the other thing, Joseph, Soft Serve Sultan.
What's up?
That is kind of important about that is this. What's another important part to that? We talked about last time that Flash was a $3 card, so everybody was going to have it. Now, why that comes up again is because don't you think people love having the cheat code? People are lazy.
Mm-hmm.
That combo was the cheat code for a lot of people to go to their casual LGS and just body everybody and win those 2 packs.
Mm-hmm.
And act like they were doing something and they're smarter than everybody else because they went on the internet and saw that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know it was everywhere on the internet, and you know that's what people do.
You know something, and you're completely right. I think the reason why one of the reasons why it was very popular is because it was competitive. It was extremely degenerate, and it was easy to do.
It was easy to do. Like, and it wasn't, and the cards weren't impossible to get.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we up here looking at Tima the Weaver that was only printed in one commander deck at $56.76.
You're done.
Well, actually, that's the reason why those...
That was like $3 to $4.
Right.
Well, that's the reason why that card got so expensive. Because that was the suggested commander, was Tima the Weaver and Thrasios. But the actual combo wasn't that expensive. But the suggested generals, it got super expensive because people like, well, I should play the best generals with it too. So people know that I'm in a know.
People want to min-max, and people want to min-max their stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to optimize. You know, so yeah, there you go. But it was easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't hard. It wasn't the most expensive thing in the world. Everybody wanted to go to their LGS and look smart.
Mm-hmm.
That's why these casuals found out about it.
Here we go.
Because it was the cheat code. That happens in Magic the Gathering all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What's the cheat code? You know, I'll give you an example. Something I always have to Magic the Gathering the same way. Red deck wins.
Hell yeah!
Whenever there's a format of standard that has a red deck wins with it, right, or basically a popular mono red deck, people often don't even look at which red cards would be the most optimal for the situation. They just look at the list that somebody else had that went to the event and did well on on MTG Goldfish. Shout outs to them, their website, for just being a good resource. They go on their popular decks. They go on their decks, the deck list, go to metagame, go to standard, look, say, oh, let me look at these metagame decks. This bad deck, what's the price of it? Oh, $556? I don't think I want to pay that. I don't have most of the prices. Let me see. Oh, this next one is $179. That's still a little pricey. Okay, 300, 400. Actual Flourish. That's 200. Oh, $92. Let me check this one out. Oh, Red Deck wins. $89 a paper. Oh, I have most of these cards.
I can do this.
And then yeah, I can do this. And they just pull up with that. I do that sometimes. Now, I look at stuff on. I don't necessarily completely meta deck, but I'll meta deck for the most part, and then make personal changes. If even that, sometimes I will just pull up.
Yeah, we're not like I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it.
I'm not telling you that's a bad idea. I'm just telling you that's a very popular, easy thing to do. I'm telling you, it's that easy to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how easy that is to do. And that incentivizes people to do that. You go to the metagame. They got a Commander metagame on the same website. You know what I'm saying? You know what the most popular deck on the metagame website for Commander on that website is?
I have no clue.
Nekusar the Mind Razor. That's the deck. The deck everybody's telling you to play right now. That's the #1 most popular deck in the Commander format. Second one is Brago King Eternal. That's the second most popular one.
Well, I will say right now, one of the cool things about the format is because this has been reset. The format's been reset. A lot of people don't know what to do, and that's kind of cool. Like people like the openness of the format, the fact that a lot of strategies that were just not good enough in the past now have chance to run. Old decks that people used to run before, now people can run again. So a lot of people are really happy about this.
Oh yeah. It opens up a whole bunch of stuff and it lets people do things. I mean, Astrid on the list, the most popular. Ariel, Raj is one of the most popular. One of my personal favorites. It's on the most popular list. Starland Sky Summoner. I think that's Conventions on there. Popular General. I'm a big fan of that. About 250 bucks. They even have budget. Subscriptions. Okay, budget arcade. So Avacyn is pretty good. One deck that I like is budget is Zuri Claw Progress. That's a fun deck. That's a swell the host combo. That's only 150 bucks. Okay, you get to play a lot of people like Metal Realms, Coiling Oracle, Dire Sage, which is an amazing fun card. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's not like the point I'm making is very easy to meta deck. And that deck was right there at the top of the, until that ban came, that was at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That was at the top of the list for, what's busted. And everybody knew about it because it's not like Magic, it's not like MTG Golf is an unpopular website.
Mm-hmm. Or just asking people. Like if you just ask anyone in the format, everyone knew. It wasn't a kept secret at all. What's the biggest?
No.
It's usually when people ask anything about a format, they ask about what's the most powerful deck. What's the they want to get a gauge of what the deck is, and it was very easy. Like before, you could say, well, there's 2 or 3 decks that baby the best and this and that and this, but it was singular. It's this deck. That's the best and most consistent, and everything else is warped around that, and that's just it.
Right. The people out here think they were all kinds of cool. You know what I'm saying? So, like, yeah, it was easy to do. So, sum up that scenario. Do we like Magic the Gathering Commander? Yes. Are we happy about the fact that Flash was banned? Yes. We don't like their proposal easily for it because it's disingenuous due to the fact that they were trying to sell you on the fact that they're making a grand conception. The exceptional decision is the term they use. We would both tell you there's nothing exceptional about that decision. It was the obvious choice, and don't let them tell you anything. They are not gods from Mount Olympus. They do not send the thunderbolt to appease the human. You know what I'm saying?
They are no Vesuvius. They're not bringing us fire.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Prometheus is not getting punished and chained to the rocks because he stole fire from the gods over here.
Like they did what they were supposed to do.
Right. And don't you forget it. They were supposed to do that. There was no other. It was the only choice. It wasn't even just the right choice. It was the only choice. Now, another thing I want to talk about real quick, and you've been watching my friend do it as we've been speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Is play his thoughts on this new little I'll just flat out say it. What's the name of that? Scarface inspired, Al Pacino inspired the section they've added to a game that we like called Borderlands. Now there was a patch and a hot fix today. And the thing I want to talk about most is the characters. Now, the I guess you could say my friend here's main character that he likes to play the most is Mose. However you pronounce that.
Yeah,
M-O-Z-E,
Mose is how you pronounce
the gunner. And there's been buffs. So basically, on the official Borderlands website, they said, during our investigation into Mose's viability, we have determined a handful of changes that we were unable to conclude as a hotfix, and now are included in today's patch. Specifically, we made some changes to allow for the few of her skills to regenerate health or her shields. We've also increased the damage output of her few skills. Do any of these things immediately stand out as like things that she really needed for buffs?
Well, be honest with you, all of the buffs that was put out there were pretty significant because they were all survivability buffs. If I had to choose one specifically that was the best, I would actually bring it up on screen. It was a buff to a skill they have where when you run, Moze had ability for 1 point, and usually abilities in Borderlands that cost 1 point tend to be very good. So one of her 1 point abilities was Russian offense. Moze can sprint and shoot at the same time. While sprinting, Moze's weapons gains lifesteal. It was 8% lifesteal. That is a big deal. That was one of the things Moze could do. Obviously run and gun. Shoot but the fact that it gave her lifesteal as a source, sustainability is a big deal because the game is very, very heavy damage. And she was supposed to be a tougher character. She was supposed to be one of the not a glass cannon. She was supposed to be a character who was kind of hard to kill. They finally gave her something. Gave her one of the things that could do that. But like she's actually been receiving buffs every week for the last month, and so she's a much better character than she used to be. Everything has been buffed. Everything has been improved on this character, and I appreciate it quite a bit because it needed it.
I would say myself that I think, while it may not be the most significant, was the one that actually I thought was the best one, Percy. Is the fact that the Scrappy ability adds weapon damage to the skill. It just does damage. Because that felt like one of the first things you get with your character. And it was just yeah. So, did you finish while we were playing? Did you finish that whole little extra bit? Or are you just going back and forth?
Yeah, I did. So what happens with these mini events? And they're timed events. So basically, usually what you do is you run around the normal map. You collect a certain amount of wingdings, and then once you get collect a certain amount of wingdings, then you go to the bonus map that they opened, of which you go and kill the boss and kill all those guys and try to get the exclusive loot that is dropped for the session. So it's already been pointed out with gun there, is out there that people are trying to get, and is the OPQT. And a little history behind the QT is the QT is a assault rifle that has epic versions. Is actually not a legendary assault rifle. The normal QT was a epic level, which is basically the rarity right under legendary.
Purple.
Purple, which is usually not considered to be extremely good, but the QT normally for purple would outperform most legendaries, which was a big deal to have a epic gun outperform legendaries and be one of the best guns in the game. So the reason why is the OPQT is basically a nod to the fact that the community thought this gun was so good that we're actually going to make a legendary version of this gun, and come to find out the OPQT lives up to its name. It is quite good. Now I haven't gotten a chance to drop it, but other people have, so that's kind of what I'm farming for now. When I go in there is hopefully I can get one of those to drop with good anointment, so forth and so on. But that's how these little mini events usually go, is you try to collect all the windings and go back in and fight it and try to see if you can't get the rare loot, the exclusive loot for that time locked event to drop for you.
So what did you think about the mini event as a whole? I thought the Scarface eye thing was kind of cool.
Yeah, I like the I most definitely like the aesthetics of it, the 80s effect. I think the enemies are just annoying enough, because you don't want an enemy that does nothing. You don't want enemies that are too good, but you also don't want enemies that don't have any challenge to it. I mean, I guess some people might, but I prefer to feel like I'm playing the game and feel like I might have some skill and stuff like that. Even when I'm farming, I don't necessarily go for the easiest farms or the quickest farms. I usually try to go for the ones that are going to give me decent loot, but also a decent gameplay experience. And I felt like they've also improved the mini event, stuff in general. Because the first mini event they did a Halloween one, and the mini events usually add more difficulty to the game, and you can now turn off the mini event stuff. So if you don't want to deal with that kind of stuff, or deal with the increase in difficulty, or deal with the anything that has to do with the mini event, you can turn that off. And so that's that's most definitely an improvement. And also like some of the challenges that happen in the event that give you exclusive gear seem more reasonable. They don't seem to be things that you wouldn't do, or things that are so outlandish that you'll probably never complete the event. So I like the event in general, the aesthetics of it, the guns and the loot I've seen so far, and most definitely how they've been implementing them.
So the big question everybody wants to know, we want to talk about is Mayhem Mode 2.0. That's a big. That's one of the biggest deals with this game since it's come out.
Yeah. So it's a Mayhem 2.0 is a big deal, because not only does it change the game, as in it makes it so you can have a lot of different modifiers going on at once. They've changed up the modifiers. They've not only done that, but they've also changed how you can increase or decrease the Mayhem mode at will, which is a big deal, because you had to always go all the way to Sanctuary and then go all the way up. It's like 3 loading screens to change something that is pretty dialed back. Also, that they don't change everything every single time that you load into a new area. That used to be another thing that was done, that every time you load to a different area, add different modifiers. You keep the modifiers you want, or you keep the modifiers that come up.
Here we go.
And they also changed that the loot from the different Mayhem modes increase. So it's not just actually it's not just the amount of loot that came out and the rarity of the loot, but also the quality of the loot as in the numbers on the loot itself, and you know it getting extra properties has also been added to Mayhem 2.0. So this is the biggest, you know, change I would say to the game since launch, and it is very very good. I think if you're, you know, you're a fan of looter shooters, been a fan of Borderlands, you may have lapsed or you may have stopped playing for a little while. This is a perfect time to get back into it. It's never been more rewarding to play this game than now. So
yeah, so I'm a more casual player of Borderlands. I have one level 7 level maxed out level 7 character. Guys, I got it. Insane. Like if I get to do this mini event, I might. Depends on if I can get myself to stop playing Mortal Kombat.
yeah, that's
Another fiercely grinding. I've even gone as far as I'm playing on the screens now. So you're having a little call from TV. Shout out to my rap buster, that dude, a friend of mine. He's been having these little calls King of the Hill. Yeah,
okay.
Playing on there, trying to play on the internet with people, game out there, play with people, trying to get the game up.
Okay.
Been trying to do that, so like I'm trying to go in on this Mortal Kombat 11. I ain't playing no online tournaments yet, although there's been a lot of those in Mortal Kombat. I just been playing with, you know, better people and trying to up my stuff on that game. So if I can pull myself away from playing that, I might get it to try. But I love the aesthetic. I love the 80s, the blue, pink, and white. You know what I'm saying? Miami aesthetic. That's I'm a fan of those things. That's always cool. It looks cool. The enemies look cool. The whole thing looks cool. Mayhem mode is not for me. I'm not that hardcore into it, man. I tried that stuff, and I got bodied so hard that I was like, you know what?
Well, you played some Mayhem mode. You played it with me, but you weren't, you know, you weren't doing like Mayhem 4 shit.
No, like there's Mayhem 4, you know, so I was playing, there was 4, when I was playing, there was 4 levels of Mayhem, right? There's Mayhem 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
You played 1 and 2.
I was playing on 1.
You played 2 with me.
I played 2 with, yes, I had played 2 with my friends. When I was playing by myself primarily, it was 1. It was Mayhem mode 1. And I felt that that was the right difficulty for me. The game was just difficult where I struggled, but I was still able to somewhat make enough dead in the game where I didn't get so overwhelmed that I couldn't learn. Because it's not, the thing about with these higher difficulties is, for me, it's not so much about, you know, is the game more difficult, it's like, is the game at a point where I'm getting beat and I can't, like, learn, I can't, you know, I'm not learning, I'm not finding ways to get better so I can, oh, get good, bro. Well, there's a method to that. You know,
and you also, you know, probably shouldn't just jump into Mayhem 4 because you don't have the gear for it. Like, it's, you know, this is still a loot-based game, and if you can be skilled all you want. If you don't have the gear, you don't have the gear. You just don't have the numbers.
Right, like if you ain't got the numbers, like I found that out real quick. If you ain't got the numbers, like there was a raid. I didn't even know it was a raid, but I did like something that you're supposed to do a multiplayer by myself, because I'm just like not that into it. And I ended up finishing it. And I didn't know how much of an accomplishment that was until I actually did it. And I told people, you did that by yourself? I was like, that's a big deal. So, like, yeah, so, like, for a more casual person on these types of games, I would tell you that it's really fun. Like, the idea of having a Mayhem 2.0 is really good. Now, I'm going to tell you I got a problem with Borderlands 3. Talking to some of my friends, my other people on Reddit, and I think there's a wide agreement. And I got to ask my friend who I would call not...
I mean it!
You're not a professional Borderlands 3 player, but you're definitely not casual. And it's the one big problem with this game that everybody's got a problem with. Well, a lot of people I come across, I shouldn't say everybody, that's too bad. But a lot of people I come across, and there's one thing. And they all said it's time We're sorry, Gearbox, but it's time. We want it, and you got to give it to us. This game needs Borderlands 3 needs a new character.
Oh yes.
I'm
yes.
sorry, Gearbox.
Yes. I know they need to bite the damn bullet and put out new characters. It's desperately needed.
Just one for now. At least one. And I'm the guy who hasn't even like maxed out all 4 characters. My friend here has like multiple high-level characters. I think of each one. I don't know if you have maxed on every one. But
there's only, I said, I have a high-level flak. I have max level of 2. I do have one character, which is the character you play, Zane, is the character I don't have at a high level. But that's, I said, I've experienced enough of Zane. I know enough about Zane. I feel I can speak on Zane quite a bit. Because also my other friend who plays this game with me is also a high level Zane. So I'll even be looking out for gear for that guy, stuff like that. So I know what Zane is about. I know how that stuff ends up working out.
Yeah. And honestly, like, so with that being said, like, that's what's making me not come back to this game. If they made a new character for this game, no, I'm not. Like, they could bring back an old character from a previous game or make a completely new character or whatever. But it's time. Like, this game desperately needs a new character or something as big and dramatic as a new character. Because for a lot of the people I talk to about Borderlands 3, and I like Borderlands 3, it's time. Like, we need that big of a shakeup. Like the DLCs were cool and all.
I would say this is a big shakeup. They're very heavy-handed on changing the like. This is, I'm not gonna say this is, nothing. This is a lot. They've been doing a lot, and they've been on top of it. I just think that they have this idea in their head that is just false. They have this idea that people aren't going to play it, that, because that's at least what they told, the excuse they had before. They said they aren't going to put out new characters because most people don't level up new characters, most people don't play new characters, so thus it's not really worth it. Most people just find the ones that they have, and they don't level them up, and, they're not interested. I would say that it's false, because I know multiple people who played the previous games, and when new characters came out, sometimes that became their new mains, or a lot of times, even if they didn't become their new mains, they were so excited about it that they maxed it out. For example, I know many a Krieg main, I know many a Gage main, I know many a Jack main. Usually those characters, one of the DLC characters tend to be a little bit more outside the box. They tend to be a little bit more wacky, a little bit more, experimental. And 2, they can be very powerful. Not every single one of them are super powerful, but they most definitely have the ability to be. And also, it's something they've done in every single other game besides the first one, and it just seems odd that they wouldn't do it here.
Yeah,
Nothing about it makes any sense.
It's off problem. Like, it's a problem at this point. We're flat out saying, I know people who are on the casual side of this game have dropped this game and said that's about the only thing that would make them come back to. Something of that, like, distinction. Like, people, they play through the story mode and they're done. Like, they're just done. Because, and...
Like, for a lot of people, like, there's, like, I would say the hardcore people enjoy the grinding aspect of the game, and I would say most casual people enjoy it to a little bit. And they like the fun, funky guns and stuff like that. But adding, 15 new legendaries, well, isn't to them enough of a divergent experience for them to come back. A new character is, though, because they feel like a new character is a new way of playing the game. And they're not wrong in that assessment. It is a new way of playing the game. It's like refreshing an old game, and it's now brand new again. Both me and my friend V8 are both fighting game players, and There's nothing that brings more people back to play the fighting game than a brand new character.
Oh my goodness! I'll tell y'all a story about fighting games in that aspect. All right. So Mortal Kombat 11, right? My favorite fighting game right now. I've been grinding damn near 1,000 hours grinding every day playing that game, 4 or 5 hours a day. When that game came out, I was Scorpion. Grind. I played Scorpion, beat its ass. Scorpion sucks, blah blah blah. But I'm an OG fighting game player, so you don't tell me about your tier lists. Beat me in this match, and we'll talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear about your tier list. Tier lists are nice for people to think which one of the who's better than who and theory. You know, it's a fun theory crafter, but you still got to play the guy, and even if he's playing the guy at the bottom of the tier list, if you're losing to him, he's a better player than you. So that matters, right? The point is, the first DLC character came out for that game. The first true DLC character came out for that game. Shao Kahn was in that game. He was technically a DLC character. He was a pre-order bonus. That's technically a DLC. But the first DLC character came out, which was
the first character that came out after launch.
Yes, after launch was Shang Tsung. And boy, let me tell you, that's my childhood right there. Boy, and they dressed him up like the movie Shang Tsung. He was Kerry Tagawa. They dressed that man up. And man, let me tell you, and my friend here can attest to it. I got all the swag for that guy. That was the first fighting game character in the States where I bought just that character. Like, there's been times where, like, in fighting games where I'll just get the season pass to get all the extra characters. He was the first one I went out of my way and spent the actual extra money, because it's usually cheaper to buy, like, the whole season pass per thing.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the times in fighting games, you're going to get all of them anyways, because you want to try them all anyways. But that guy, I'd be damned. I had to have him. And I got him. I got his movie outfit. I had all the swag. I was playing that dude. They brought out this cool new third way to fight with him. It's called Third Variation 3 for all these characters. And he turns into all these ninjas and stuff. And this dude was just so cool. I thought he was so cool. That guy became my new main dude. And now I've been playing him so much on the internet, people actually know me as a Shang Tsung player. Oh, that's that Shang Tsung player. People don't even know that my Scorpion is pretty legit, because I spent that whole time since the beta for Mortal Kombat all the way up until now still playing Scorpion. My friend knows I play Scorpion, and I still love Scorpion, but he's watched me. We've done streams.
I could go for some
He's watched me play Shang Tsung, and I would say I'm pretty OD with Shang Tsung. Like, I'm not free. Like, I'm pretty good. I would say I'm slightly above average. I ain't no tournament player, but I'm pretty good. I'm just below tournament player. Like, I'm not a pop monster or anything like that. I'm just below that. I'm about 3 out of 5 in that game.
Well, I'm bored as hell. Maybe I should go shit
That guy is just so cool. So DLC characters and extra characters in a game will change people especially if there's nostalgia attached. Like, you bring back an old character, you bring back like an old character from back in the day. Oh my goodness. You will see people come out of the woodworks.
Mm-hmm.
So if they want this game, if Gearbox wants Borderlands 3 to survive the long term, they're going to have to make more characters for this game. It's just, that's the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Even the pre-sequel, which wasn't directly made by Gearbox completely, which was my first Borderlands game, because I never played Borderlands 1 or 2. I just played the pre-sequel, and in this one, that had DLC characters.
Yep.
And those guys were pretty cool. Like the handsome Jack clone dude.
And Aurelia.
Oh, the sniper chick was fantastic. There was like a lady who was like a sniper specialist. Oh, she was fantastic. I like some good snipers in some Borderlands, or just in games in general. I like some long range shots, and man, that lady was so fun. Like that game, when I beat the game the first time, with with Claptrap, Cause he was a cool dude. Then I went back and beat it the second time. There was like a sword and a shield guy who was really cool. And then that lady came out, and man, that was my favorite one. She was my favorite one, the sniper chick.
Yeah, unfortunately, DLC characters don't make people play games more often, though.
No. Nobody levels up the DLC characters. Nobody's favorite thing is the DLC character. Yeah, okay. Oh, speaking of that, I believe Borderlands 2 Game of the Year Edition is free on Steam. I think it's like free or reduced price on Steam. One of those, I don't know if it's Borderlands. Which one? If you look at Borderlands, I think it's Borderlands or Borderlands 2. One of those, the Game of the Year edition for one of those is free on Steam. So look that up. Speaking of Borderlands, but yeah, that's all I got to say about Borderlands. That's about all I can think of.
Yeah, big fan of the update. The buffs are great.
Oh, yeah,
the buffs are great. 2.0 is great. So it's been awesome. I think this is gonna end our broadcast day. I think.
Yeah, I don't think we got much left to say just about really anything that's going on in the world. I think we talked about the topics. I try to be really diligent with this podcast to talk about things that are relevant to the time in which we stream or which we talk about them. So sometimes there may be more topics, sometimes there may be less. But I talk about like this DLC, this little mini event for Borderlands came out today. This flash ban happened like a few days ago. So like we try to keep these topics on here, like in the moment. Like I want to talk about things as they happen. That's why I try to do a weekly thing about that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's so. Any last words, boss?
Yep. Guys, take care of each other. Go out there, have fun, enjoy your life. Well, actually, don't go out there. Stay inside and have fun.
Stay home.
Stay home. But learn. There's still fun you can have. You can talk to people. You can have a podcast. You can play these games online and socialize. We have all the technology out there. Don't go out there and go crazy and start doing things you might regret. And take this stuff seriously. But don't let it get you down. We all get through this. Take care of your friends and take care of your family and just enjoy life.
Yeah, don't forget your friends, man, especially your family. If you haven't talked to some of your family members in a while because of this thing, try your best to get a hold of those folks because you never know what's going on with those people until you actually talk to them. Not only that, there's a million and one different things for you to do while you're at home. They say these are the times, I'm going to repeat something I said a while ago, but these are the times when kings are made. When the world is feels like it's burning all around, these are the times when the real leaders stand up and we separate the men from the boys, as it were.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So with that being said, that does it for us, man. Thanks for listening. If you listened all the way to the end, we appreciate that. That'll do it, and that'll end our broadcast day.
Night, guys.
Yeah, have a good one.